fucking thing sucks!
They come in and they will defeat the heavy cavalry, but they lose to the foot archers because the foot archers usually have heavier weapons. They can shoot further. It's this whole thing. On the other hand, the heavy infantry can't run down the cavalry to get them, so cavalry can pick when they want. Anyway, all this stuff turned out to make for a really interesting game when you use it properly. So that's what we did.
One of the fun stories I was reading about your time working on Age of Empires is that you guys kept getting pulled into the news around world events. I'm sure so like you. No more gender confusion. No more electric tents. No more the stuff was going on at the time with Macedonia becoming a nation.
Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. Yeah. So.
I kind of agree with that. Like imagine you're in battle, there's fucking bombs and gunfire going off everywhere. Some transgender soldier goes, and it's like, what was it, soldier? Where are you hit? I'm not alone. Estrogen.
But you add them. Yeah. But now he is. And would not have agreed, right? But now he is. Right? But
Chills up your spine. Finally, we'll take a quick look at that fucking Emma ad after this just to demonstrate the
But now he is.
But this inspires confidence. This is manly. This is brave. This is kind of what the Chinese and the Russians have been doing all along. What America used to do. Now, I'm not saying that America stopped having like a hard-ass army, but the PR didn't fucking match, you know what I mean? Looking at the eyes of the Americans when they're giving up that scenes they're alive in uniform to serve their nation, they are incredible.
right, but now he is. So anyway, so they said you can't have the Macedonians be separate from the Greeks because Macedonia is Greek. Right, but now he is. So anyway, not a agreed, right? But now he is. So anyway, so they said you can't have the Macedonians be separate from the Greeks because Macedonia is Greek. And I said, well, gambling. They're gonna buy zero of our games, so who cares?
That was good.
Serving overseas and God bless the United States of America. Nice one. What a legendary guy.
Our game, so who cares?
That was good.
Really great. He said, yeah, who taught you? You know, but who taught you?
I mean, God tells me that like 58% of the US Armed Forces are white men, but sure, just fucking completely alienate the core market.
You know, but anyway, so I do right.
But that was like the modus operandi of the fucking Democrats. Remember that time scum of the earth? And the Democrats are desperately trying to recover from it now. They just launched this fucking $20 million campaign to bring men back. They enlisted the help of that fat abortion activist from Texas. That is just brilliant. That is so entertaining. There's nothing's going to over men like some fat bitch who wants to kill your kids.
This is the story of a soldier who operates the nation's Patriot missile defense systems.
Yeah.
It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms.
Why? Why did they do this? I mean,
But
seriously,
then
who's
they
operating
said,
the Patriot missile defense system? I don't think it's some girl from California too fucking nice. I'm just saying, it's probably some girl from fucking Idaho called
right?
Randy.
And that's why I said,
And just likes killing shit, you know what I mean? And Randy should be operating the bastards.
like political drama.
I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident and left her paralyzed. Doctor said she might never walk again.
It's cool that the game became popular enough that all these people cared.
She tapped in my family's pride to get me back on her feet. Eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom.
We're not people that played it. They just like have heard.
I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women.
Purely bad.
This graduation
You know?
approach,
Yeah,
I
but
began feeling that
you're-
I needed so much
you're-
in life. A sorority
you know?
girl stereotype.
Jesus Christ, I think we've seen enough of that. We've had a good refresher. Now, at the same time that this ad was doing the rounds, the Russians were putting out ads that were hard as fucking nails. The Chinese are showing off their advanced
Yep.
weaponry and all the
You're-
toughness guns, super soldiers.
You're
that
annihilating the
operate.
demons
So
here.
I'm
You're
glad that
eradicating
America is
You're
out.
eradicating them
There was
from
one
existence.
place.
Could be about to fucking pop off. I don't think Vladimir Putin's gonna
You're
play
annihilating
nice
the
after this
demons.
latest
You're
drone attack, and that
eradicating.
behemoth of a fucking landing craft thing really has me thinking, what's China up to? What's Xi Jinping got in mind for Taiwan? Or even Australia? Oh, did you know, I found out the other day, that in China, your first name is said like as the last name of the sort of thing. So Xi Jinping's name isn't Xi Jinping. His name's fucking Ping. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. So when one of his mates come in for a beer, they don't walk in and go, oh, g'day Xi Jinping, how's work treating you? They come in and go, oh, g'day Ping, how you going, buddy? I brought round a six-pack, let's fucking get into it. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to joke about Chinese people having names that sounded like ricochets. Like, you know, Jing Hao Hao. But this motherfucker actually does. He is the stereotype.
But anyway, so I do rise room. They call us and they say, we need to put the Koreans in the.
I just wanted to have this new argument because it fucking slays. Well done, America. And if I was in the armed forces, or if I was considering joining the armed forces, I would be breathing a sigh of relief. Because the armed forces no longer look like pansexual queer fucking persons. Anyway, I'm early now, I got shit to do. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any
I sure so like the stuff was going on at the time with Macedonia becoming a nation.
Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. Yeah. So I'm doing Rise of Rome. I said, hey, let's do an expansion for Age of Empires. What happened is I was working on this game called Sorceress. It's going to be this full fantasy RTS, and they kept pulling team members off it to work on Age 2, and they finally pulled so many guys off. It was like me, a programmer, and an artist. And I said, tell you what, how about if I
Bro, the level just started.
the
We're
Rise
already
of
getting
Rome,
overrun.
Fourth Civilization, we'll have Rome and 3 other enemies. And Ansal said, think it'll sell? I said, I'm pretty sure it'll sell based on my the main game. You know? I mean, each individual expansion add them together and they're selling a lot more. Also, it's a lot cheaper to make. Something that sells a third as many is like a really good deal for something that costs like a 20th as much, right? So Microsoft tried to shout us down and not do it. We don't think expansions will sell, but we did it anyway. And so we're doing it. And one of the enemies I wanted to have be the Pyrrhus of Epirus and basically the descendants of the Macedonians in the Balkans. Okay. So I wasn't sure what to call them. So I had to call them the Hellenes. They're not Greeks really. So I called them the Macedonians. And at the time, Greece was having this. Greek people were having this huge problem with Macedonia because they had a province called Macedonia, and they didn't want the evil Macedonian country to be claiming their province, which the Macedonians weren't. The Macedonians are like the poorest country. And what happened is that Greece decided to ban all video games. They did this